Part of the reason that we get so disappointed with other people is because we have high expectations for these people. You know, when we set high expectations for people, what is that based on? Is it based on what you would do if you were in their shoes? Are your expectations on other people based on what you've told them that you want from them and the things that you've explained to them? Are your expectations based on conversations that you've had with that person, and so you thought that both of you were clear on the same page and you fully expected them to do what it is that you had talked about? But how often does that actually happen? How often do we put expectations on people and those expectations are met or even exceeded? It doesn't happen that often. And part of the reason that it doesn't happen that often is because we put unnecessary expectations on people. We actually expect that people are going to do what we want them to do. Do we actually expect that people are going to think how we want them to think? Do we expect that people are going to see life and circumstances and situations the way that we see them? You know, they don't have the same perspective as us because they're not us. They didn't come from the same family, or they don't have the same walk of life, or they have certain experiences with situations that you don't have, or they just see things differently. Maybe there's some trauma in the background, or maybe they've got some pride or some ego. Whatever the issue is, when we expect something out of somebody and they don't follow through in the way that we expected them to, we're the ones that are let down. We're the ones that stop trusting people. You can't lead people if you can't trust people. You can't even serve people properly if you can't trust people. You will be a very little benefit to the world if you can't trust people. And we justify our lack of trust because people have let us down. If we lower our expectations of people, then we'll get let down less. Now think about that for a minute. I'm not saying that we don't have a right to expect anything out of anybody at all. I have a right to expect my wife to be faithful to me. My wife has a right to expect me to be faithful to her. I have a right to expect certain things out of people based on what those people expect out of me, based on conversation, based on what we're giving and exchanging in our life, the exchange of value. I have a right to expect that. But I also have to have an understanding that I'm going to be let down. If I expect anything out of anybody, I'm going to be let down from time to time. There are some letdowns that are bigger than others. There are some times where people don't handle their business and it's catastrophic, but usually it's not that big of a deal. If I stop expecting so much out of people, I'll stop getting let down as often. It doesn't mean not to trust people. It means to understand that people are people. And all the different scenarios and the different situations and the different mindset and all the different experiences that people bring into every situation, that's what's going to cause them to react. Their perspective is what's going to make them react a certain way, not your perspective. And so when they do something that you wouldn't do, or they do something that you think they should do differently, we need to understand their perspective is not our perspective. They see things differently than we see things. Therefore, they're going to do things and interpret things differently than we interpret. And so if we expect them to think the way we would, we expect them to act the way we would, we expect them to do things the way that we would do them, we're going to be let down all of the time. Because people are different. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't trust people. I'm saying trust people a lot until they prove you wrong. Trust people. Give people the benefit of the doubt until they prove you wrong. Trust people until they give you a real, legitimate reason not to trust them. Life's too hectic, too crazy, too short to walk around untrusting, reserved, selfish. I can't depend on anybody, an army of one. That's not going to work. You're going to be miserable and unhappy. But stop putting such a high bar on people that come behind you, on your family, on your followers, on your peers, even on your leaders. Stop putting such a high bar of expectation on them. So that when they don't meet your expectation, now you're disappointed and you can't trust them anymore. That's you. That's your perspective. That's your expectation that you set. You set yourself up to lose trust in people. You should expect a lot out of yourself. You should demand a lot from yourself. But you shouldn't be demanding a lot from other people. You shouldn't be expecting a lot from other people. You should put your level of discipline and the demands on yourself at such a high bar that people think you are absolutely crazy for how much you demand out of yourself, for how much you expect out of yourself, for how little excuses you'll give yourself. But just because you do that to yourself does not mean that you have the right to expect a lot out of other people, that you have the right to demand a lot from other people, that you have the right to put others under the same discipline that you put yourself. You don't have that right. As much as you want it, because you know how good it is for you, and so you want to put other people under that same regimen of discipline, but they have to do it to themselves. You're trying to do it because you know how much it'll help them. They have to do it. If someone else puts me under discipline, that's called jail or government control or parents. But if I'm going to have the kind of discipline in my life that actually makes me grow and thrive and put the demands in my life, it can't be somebody else. The high expectation can't be from somebody else. It has to be from me. And it goes for the people in your life as well. You can't put all these high expectations on them and expect them to come through every time. It's not going to happen. It's just not the way the world works. It's not the way life works. Lower your expectations for people so that you can be more empathetic and more trusting with others.